Call the meeting to order since we're the chair.
Okay, call to order, roll call. Donna's here. Ashley is here. JC, Justin. Dick. Is Tina Temple,
No, Tina's not.
Pat Stone, or Doris?
We got Doris.
Hi, Doris.
Hi, Doris.
Oh, hello.
Perfect.
Okay.
Pledge of Allegiance. Does someone want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I will.
Hey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Okay, who's gonna
And
say?
then the membership introduction. We want to introduce the new member, Doris, Doris Newton.
Yep. Hi, Doris.
Hello.
She was here last week in person, but she is from the Yoncalla area.
Oh, okay.
So we told her that we didn't always have to make that trip down here.
Right, that's kind of long ways. Can we know a little bit about her?
Yeah, Doris, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a retired corporate accountant. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I have been living in Yoncalla for 11 years, and I have worked in this community quite a bit in the last 10 years. I worked for North Douglas Betterment for 2.5 years, but recently I am involved with a couple of activities that one is called the Circle of Friends, that it's a ministry that I started as a fellowship for the elderly and disabled, basically targeting the shut-ins in these communities, that we provide companionship, trying to alleviate some of the depression and, other issues that these people don't have. A lot of them don't have transportation. A lot of them don't have family. So we're using it as a way to monitor these people and see if we can get them involved in more public activities. So we've been working on that for the last year. The other thing that I work on is the food pantry here in Yoncalla, which I've actually been able to recruit a few people into the Circle of Friends just from the activities there. And it's a volunteer group of about 10 people, and we visit these people on a regular basis, usually about twice or more a month, to make sure everything is going on in their life. And in doing this work, it has become very apparent that the transportation issues are extreme in these North Douglas communities, where Yoncalla has over 50% of the population is either elderly or disabled. And so these are just some of the projects I'm working on, and has led me to this STAC committee, hoping to find a way to promote this into these North Douglas communities that I'm very active in right now. And
Cool.
Thank you, Doris.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the group.
thank you so much.
Oh, is she? Okay, Pat's on her way. Under 4.1, I just wanted to make an announcement. Jim DeLapp, he has previously been on our board. He was on as an appointment, not an elected. And then he lost out on his election a couple years ago. But he is now interested in being on the STAC committee for us. So he has put in an application, and that application will go to the board at this month's board meeting.
Cool.
So, yeah. And my feeling is that we have not been able to get in touch with Tina. We've had no communication from her. If anybody knows her, and to reach out to her, that would be great, but the email that we have, no longer is a good email, so, if we don't hear from her or, someone else that has had contact with her, we're gonna recommend the board to just, remove her from the STAC committee. And then, look at Jim to replace that one.
But even if she does all of a sudden make contact, we can still have.
We can
Jim.
still have Jim. Mhm.
Good,
This
okay.
this would, if we had everybody that's here plus Jim, this would be great, because we have never had a stiff staff committee that's had, I think, this many people on it. We've historically, it's been a challenge to get people on our stiff staff committee.
What's your last name, Jim, again?
DLAP, 2 words, DE capital LAP.
Okay. Love to have you back again.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, he has some, he was attending our board meetings for quite a few years, and then he was on the board for a few months, maybe six months or so, yeah. And then, so he does have, a lot of history of UPT.
A lot of wisdom
he's
and
been on our
a lot of
budget committee
knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge. That's
Yeah.
what we need.
And then also under 4.1, and going through our bylaws, I realized that you are supposed to elect a new chair and vice chair at the first meeting of every calendar year. So this would be our first meeting. So, you guys need to look at,
So you sit and go into nominations now?
well, you guys can make somebody wants to make a nomination, and you can have some discussion about it if you need to. That person can accept the nomination or not.
I'd like to nominate Ashley. She's been my co-chair. I'd like to nominate her to be the chair. Chicken, huh? No, she, we're good together. We'll just,
Well, you
we'll work with each other. No, I'm fine. I'm just,
Ashley, would you be willing to accept the chair position? Yes? Okay. Is there any discussion about Ashley?
Yep.
I'll still be her sidekick, but
Okay, so now we need to
No.
nominate you for vice.
Yeah, really. Then it
That's what
just,
we can do.
it just swap.
The chair.
Okay,
Donna's made a motion to nominate
Ashley.
Ashley. And does anybody want to, and Ashley has said that she would accept it, so does somebody want to make a second?
guess I'll second that.
Okay. Y'all want to take a vote?
you're too busy with the lodge.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
No, you say I do.
that's you, Ashley. Say I do.
No. So, any, and.
Aye.
That was all of
Thanks
them.
for the
Well,
nomination.
You know, that's the longest sentence in the English language.
Okay, so Ashley is the new chair. Congratulations, Ashley. And then we need to someone needs to make a nomination for a vice chair.
I nominate her sidekick, Donis. For
Do we have
Vice chair.
any?
I'll
Discussion?
second that.
Was that Ashley or?
That was Ashley, I think.
it was.
yes,
Okay. Any discussion?
And then next month we'll have Jim sitting right next to.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Okay. And then we can move on to the consent agenda. Yeah. I think Dick's been on it a few times.
Chair and vice chair, or chair and vice chair. You.
Okay, do you wanna, well, Ashley, since you're the new chair, do you wanna move on to the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you. So number 7 is the financial statement. Sherry, do you?
Oh, no, number 5. Number 5, the consent
Oh,
agenda.
Of course, right. Yeah, okay. So has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes from the last?
November 17th, meeting minutes, 2025.
Should I state that for the record, Sherry?
Yes, please.
Okay, so has everybody had a chance to review the meeting minutes from November 17th, 2025?
Yes.
Yeah.
I move that the minutes be accepted as no change.
So,
I second.
Second.
Same.
Excellent. Anyone opposed to accepting the agenda and the meeting minutes?
Any additions?
everyone in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Good deal.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. So number 6 is the review ridership for fixed route and demand response. Information only.
Yeah, it's information only. You're gonna see a dip in the ridership and that's due to the cutback in services in September. So unfortunately, we just finally started getting our federal funding last month. Which has kind of brought us up to where we are now, but it doesn't. We still have a lot of uncertainties with the federal funding. We may be looking at a delay again in the later part of this year, so. At this point, we're trying to brainstorm and come up with some ideas on how we can possibly give some services back to the South County, but that's nothing, nothing in the near future as of yet, so. That's. Wanted to explain that that's why you'll see the dip in ridership was the decrease in services in September, so.
Okay. Do we expect those to stay the same, or was that just just something that kind of a hiccup in September in regards to the ridership?
No, the ridership's probably going to stay the same until we are able to either. Give some services, start providing some of those services, reinstating some of that stuff. I just don't foresee that happening. Not in the near future. If it's gonna happen, it would be towards the end of this calendar year, possibly the beginning of next year.
Question, has there been any new hiring for new drivers so far?
We have not, no, we had to lay 4 drivers off with the cutbacks, in September. We have brought back. So we did bring back one of them, he replaced someone that went out on. I'm trying to think of who. We brought one back for somebody that went out on medical leave.
Hmm.
And then we just brought one back to actually drive on our demand response side of the house.
Okay.
We had an opening that opened up there and we brought him back so we've been able to, yeah.
Hmm.
But right now, no, we're not looking at hiring any more drivers at this point. We're fully staffed.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so number 7 on the agenda, the financial statement.
Okay, I don't know if hopefully you've all had a chance to review the financial statement. This was the financial statement that I presented at last month's board meeting, so this is for ending in January. I think we've kind of finally righted the ship. We are actually creating a bigger savings than we are, our shortfall, from the beginning of this budgeted year, July. We had a $437,000 shortfall with funding. But we have had, with our cutbacks, we've had a savings of $471,000. So it's about a $33,000 to the good. And then I do have, we finally received all of our federal funding that for first and second quarter. We're in third quarter right now. That will end March 31st, and then I will be doing reimbursement requests in April, and we will get our next STIF funding in April. Right now, my projections through the end of this my numbers. Here they are. I am projecting for us at the end of March to have $114,000 going into the new quarter, which is so much better than where we've been. So when we ended the quarter in December, I had about $120,000 worth of bills I hadn't been able to pay. Because I was holding money back to make sure we had payroll going into January. And this quarter, it looks like we will be able to pay all of our bills and have 114,000 going into April, so, we are starting to right the ship, with all of our financial difficulties that we've had over the last couple of years. Hi, Kat.
I know, I'm
sorry.
I can't.
Hi.
Oh,
Careful.
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 It was a long day.
I'll catch you on the second bounce.
So this is probably the best news that I can say we've had in probably the last 18 months. So the cutbacks, though I know that they affect our community, has been good for us and the fact that we are finally kind of becoming financially stable. So that's the good news on that part of it. And like I said, we are looking for ways. The team is brainstorming and trying to figure out how to bring some of those services back. They're probably never gonna look like they looked before. But we are trying to figure out how we can bring some services back without affecting the bottom line budget.
And we have a lawyer on retainer in case there's ever anything that pops up, okay?
Yep. My projections for the end of this fiscal year is for us to have about 438,000 to start out our next fiscal year. Which is wonderful news. It's a big burden off of my shoulders to know that we're actually gonna have some funding going into next year.
And when does the fiscal year begin?
Our fiscal year is July 1 through June 30th. So budgeting season is right around the corner for you guys. The projections that are in your packet were from about, what, a month and a half ago. So I'm actually projecting us to have more than that 45,000. I'm projecting us to have about 114K. Part of it is that we did get a big chunk of money for a vehicle that was in an accident, unfortunately, and they totaled it, so they paid us out for it. But that money we will be able to use for the purchase of new vehicles, which is, we have a big federal grant that will be coming down the pipe. The FTA has awarded UPTD a $2.2 million grant to buy 2 large buses. Our large buses, our 30-foot buses, are well out of their useful life in mileage and age. They are 2016s. Yes, so they are 10 years old and they have a lot of mileage on them, and it costs a lot to repair them, to keep them on the roads. But they are the only vehicles that we can service our Roseburg routes with, because our ridership is the red and green line get used the most. It has the most ridership. And if we don't have the big buses on them, we are not gonna be able to, the occupancy will be exceeded pretty quickly, so. That, I don't think that grant's probably going to be executed until next year sometime, probably late next year. But the FTA has said that they are awarding it to us, so that was a big win for us, but that means that we have to have match money for that grant. So hence why I am happy to see that we're gonna have 438,000 to end June. Because that will show that we will have some match money, and if we can continue to create a savings over this next fiscal year, the new fiscal year starting July, then we will be able to buy a couple of new buses.
And how much is that? 2.1 million?
2.2 million. It's almost 2.3. It's like 2.295 or something like that.
Okay.
So budgeting season is just right around the corner, and you guys are gonna play a very important part of that process. I will be presenting some things to you guys over the next coming months, and then it will be up to you guys to review things and make your recommendations to the board. Well, you'll make your recommendations to the budget committee, and then the budget committee will also review stuff and they'll make the final recommendation.
That's why I like Ashley Hicks as the chair for this year, as you're going into this, and we have all this positive stuff, because she has quite a bit of a resume from her background being on the Roseburg City Council. And so I think her being our chair, she can bring a lot of that experience and wisdom to the table.
Absolutely.
And help us a great deal because of her experience having been on the Roseburg City Council. So that's why I'm really glad that that's why I wanted her to be the chair this time. She's still teaching me about stuff, and we sometimes learn from our juniors, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. Also with the financial report, I also, included my general manager report that I also provided to the board last month. So that's just information for you guys to have. I'm just trying to, educate you guys on where we are as a district right now, where our financials are.
And we have a really good relationship with that written out with ODOT, right?
We do have a good relationship with ODOT, those charging stations that have been a pain in our side for a couple
That's
of
a
years.
thorn.
We have them on a government, auction site. This is the second round of it. We just lowered the price, the board just, voted to lower the price, so we just, ran it for another 3 weeks, so.
Are those the ones out in Sutherland on that side of the road right by? Oh, this is a different set of charging stations.
This is.
Let's not talk about the
Yeah.
one out in Sutherland.
Yeah, no, these are charging stations that we purchased for a project that we were supposed to start. And then we're not able to start the project. And we are stuck with these charging stations and, ODOT wants us to pay us back.
They're largely the problem, one of the ways we got here.
Yes. So
Okay.
anyways, more to come on that. I will be keeping the board up to date on that as
Just-
well.
For clarification, so ODOT wants you to pay them back?
So the charging stations were purchased outside of the parameters of the grant agreement.
Yeah.
So ODOT reimbursed us for the federal portion in good faith that they were going to get reimbursed by the federal government. By the FTA, and when they submitted the paperwork to the FTA said, no way. They
I
were,
just hate to see those kind of go to waste.
so we're trying to sell them. So
I know.
ODOT ultimately wants their $252,000 back because they reimbursed us and then they can't
Yeah.
get their money for that.
So are any electric buses on going to be coming in the future?
That grant has been closed by the FTA, so we will not be getting those buses either.
So they're more expensive than just buying the buses you're going to.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Too bad.
I know. Plus the electric buses haven't. They don't have a history of doing well in the colder climates. And our routes are so long and so big that we wouldn't be able to get a full, days out of them.
Just, there's so many.
I know.
It's not that far off.
So if anybody knows somebody that's doing a project that they need charging stations, please send them to the GovDeals website.
How many do we have?
We have 3. So we have 3 charging stations and 3 dispensing units that each dispensing unit can do. I think Andre said 2 cars or 1 bus, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, they are on the GovDeals .com, I think,
And
website.
you never see anybody at those stations.
Well, and the problem is with our new, our new administration, they're not pushing the EV stuff, so it's kind of died down.
Good.
Excuse me. Sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, just information on the general manager report is there. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Ashley, do you want me to move on to the funding opportunities? Do you want me just to go through?
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the general manager report, or actually more directed on the decreased routes. Is that increased capacity on the routes that have stayed? Is it
So the Winston
about
route
buying
has
new
act-
buses? Is the majority of the seats filled? Uh-oh.
So the Roseburg route and the road, we have two routes in Roseburg, the red and the green line, which, about 75% of our ridership uses those two routes, the inner city. And then we have the Winston and the Sutherland. Winston hasn't had, it's been kind of on the decrease for a while. But the Winston route did pick up when we, got rid of the South County via Winston. So the Winston route that stayed intact, that one has seen some increase in ridership. Anything further?
No, I appreciate that. I was just wondering, you know, if we're talking about buying new buses, if if they're full buses that are running right now. That's what I was. Thank you.
The Roseburg, yeah, so the Roseburg routes, we cut back the green line, to about a half-day route instead of a full route. But we couldn't cut back the Roseburg route. It has two buses. We couldn't take one bus completely away because it would make the buses too full. And so we had to keep the green line at a midday during our peak hours so that we could handle the amount of ridership. And the bus grant that we do have, like I said, it's to replace our very oldest of the fleet, which, the preventative maintenance, just to keep them running and on the roads is, pretty ridiculous, so.
I kind of had a question. ODOT sent me the federal funding available for transit vehicle upgrades
Mhm.
grant thing. Did you guys already talk about that while I was not here?
We did not.
Okay. Is that something that we could apply for or we had considered applying for?
What's it called?
It is the federal funding available for transit vehicle upgrades.
Yes, so we will be also, applying for, I have my operations manager right now is getting some pricing for us. For some of our smaller vehicles.
Okay, cause it just says like the final application is due on May 29th.
Yes, so
So
we are working on that. It's actually my deadline for ODOT is much sooner than that, so.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. I just never get to ask about this stuff.
No, I've got about 3 weeks, so we're in the process of getting some bids from like several of the vendors. So that we know how much we need to ask for.
Okay, and I'm not coming in.
We will be applying for it. I
Don't wanna get her off track.
but we will be applying for that.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Great.
Have you seen her new office? It's nice.
Isn't that just like somebody else's office used to be?
It's very homey and peaceful and serene and
It's a lot prettier.
it's a lot.
It's a
prettier.
lot prettier than it used to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
In former tenant.
you feel very at home there.
Okay, Sherry, is there more questions in regards to the general manager report? Or do you want to go to the 7.3 to the rural?
I can go to the 7.3. So 7.3 is a rural veteran access application. It's funding that is also available right now. I did an application for it. It's to enhance ridership or make it easier for our veteran community to get around to medical, dental, shopping, all of that. And so I do have an application in. It's small. They don't have it's a very limited amount of funding right now that they put out there. So my ask is for 45,000, but that's over a biennium. But right now, we currently offer free rides to our veterans on our fixed route service. And so that funding would help us kind of recoup some of that. And it would allow us to possibly give free rides to our veterans on our demand response and our paratransit and dial rides services.
That's why I asked about Garden Valley, because as you go out Garden Valley, you pass the movie theater and you start to go over the hill, like where Cruise Farms used to be to the left, but you go a little bit further. I know, some of the veterans in, chapter 805, which is the Vietnam Veterans Association. They have, there's a church out there on the right-hand side as you're first going out before you get to the country club. And I know they have their meetings there, and I found out that there's at least 5 or 6 veterans in their 80s and early 90s that actually live right there before the country club, before the church, and before that little market on the left. And so some of them are having troubles getting volunteer rides. And we also have a couple people that live out, as you're going out towards Winston. After, before you get to the Green Bridge, live on the left-hand side, like over where the meat market is. And they're having problems sometimes getting rides too, and or their spouses. So that's why I was asking if there was, eventually, we're gonna be able to do something like that.
Yeah, so I think, we have kind of talked about, the demand response side of the house needing like another driver. So that's something that we might look at, for this budgeting year, this new budgeting year. So that we can offer more dial ride services.
Do you have the dial rides for veterans that go out like where Winchester is just before you get to UCC? Cause I know we have a lot of veterans out there living in that trailer park.
So that would still be that, well, from UCC?
Yeah. You know, before you get to UCC, before you cross over the bridge in the river, there's a trailer park right down in here, and there's a lot of veterans living there. After you pass the Red Barn,
Okay.
after you pass the square dance.
So our
bar.
Sutherland bus does that route, but not our,
The,
right?
they do, they go past it, so it's right before the bridge.
Okay.
Across from Amaker Park.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
So that
So
on
that's
our fixed route is considered county
County,
though,
yep.
so
Yeah.
it would be dial a ride, I
Yeah,
believe,
it
but well, no, because our
Still
red,
be paired.
our red and green line go to the college, so it'd still be paratransit,
It
not
would be
Memphis.
paratransit,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was trying to decide, if
Yes.
where was it? So, yeah, we do have paratransit services. They would have to get in touch with Cindy, who is usually in this office, and then she can give them an application and see if they qualify for paratransit services. But right now, paratransit services are $3 each way. So it would be $3, it's door-to-door service, so it would be $3 too, and then if they get a round trip back, it'd be $3 back. But we're hoping if we get this grant, we can offer those rides for free for the veterans.
Okay.
So more to come on that.
And their spouses also be part of that?
If they're veterans.
Oh, if the spouses are veterans, okay.
Now if they are, if they, yeah.
A
if they-
caregiver.
They can have a caregiver. They can,
Caregivers ride for free,
Ride for free.
attendants pay the same fare.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Hope that wasn't a dumb question, but
No,
just,
no,
was a part of that.
It's a very complicated system.
It
You
is.
don't have any dumb questions. Tell you, Nate.
so more to come on that. The application has already been submitted and, I'm just in the waiting period now to see if, we'll get any of those funding.
Okay,
So. And then 7.4 is the STIF plan amendment update. So when we created the STIF plan, you guys were, I think, a part of that. When we did all of that last year, I only, projected to have about 127,000 of funding from the STIF plan we were in to roll, that would have been left, that we could have rolled into the STIF plan that we're currently in. But we had more money than that. We had an additional like 230K, I think. So I recently just did an amendment to the STIF plan to have those funds put into our current plan so that we can use them. Otherwise, we cannot use them. So, I just did that application and submitted all of that. It was approved by the board, last month in February, so. And I put most of those funds into our contingency. I put about 103,000 in operations for our bus routes. And then I did a small, like 3,500 under admin, and then the other 122,000 I put into contingency. Because our contingency plan would allow us to have a little more flexibility on how we spend those funds. So if it's for software eventually, or for the buses, we could, the contingency fund would let us have a little more flexibility, so that's what we did. And that's all I have.
Not on agenda.
Okay, Sherry, I have a question. First, I
Oh,
want to go
yes.
back to what, the grant that Kat had brought up, because I wanted to get clarification on whether or not that was, something that's an ongoing grant, so it's not just for this, this one cycle of funding, is that, maintenance grant that,
No, I think that this opportunity is just for, as far as I understand it, it's right now it's for replacement. It's not for expansion or anything like that, but it's for replacement. So we could,
It's just for 27, 28, right?
yes.
Yeah. So it's just the fixed period.
Do you want the agenda?
oh, okay, and then, so I appreciate the clarification on that, and then I had one more other thing. As we're coming up on, you know, making, recommendations to the budget committee, where are we with the Writer app that we had discussed last year in regards to getting
We-
people, you know, getting their technology is in the hands, like, how can we increase ridership by using this app to get, you know, people connected
Right.
with the buses?
So with all of our funding issues we've had over the last 18 months, we have not had an opportunity. I mean, we've been barely just staying afloat with what we're doing, but we do have, right now, we are working with Grants Pass. Grants Pass, they already have those type of apps, that kind of software. And what we're finding out is that we can partner like with them where they have already paid for the licensures and all of that. And we can kind of be a rider on their policy and just pay for some of the things that we'll have to pay for to have things put on our buses and things like that. Some of the hardware and things like that, but, and then we would pay for a portion of the bill, but it would save us that setup fees and all that implementation fees that cost so much to do. So we are supposed to be having a meeting with them. I don't know if it's this week or next week, but it's coming up. Because they have a software for the fixed route, and then they also have a software for for the dial ride services. So we're looking at how we can partner with them because they're on the I-5 corridor as well. So it would be very easy to be able to partner with them, and then their riders could see, you know, our stuff here in Roseburg. So if they wanted to get to Roseburg, you know, they could see where our buses run, where they pick up. It would be in a real-time
Are
situation.
they coming up here for the meeting or are you going down there?
It'll probably be on a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
But he's been talking with, his two vendors that he currently already has, those services through. So we're hoping to be able to do that and have a big enough cost savings where maybe we can, implement some of that.
And this was totally the kind of thing that we were supposed to be doing. Reaching out and working with larger districts and not trying to do everything ourselves. And we never, ever were able to reach out and cooperate, collaborate, or anything.
So now we can have maybe a team type of
And that is
approach.
part of the whole thing is we're supposed to connect with Bend. Bend has lots of money and they have recreational as well. Recreational is one of the only ways that Portland was making money for a long time. So reaching out and working with the other districts that have more resources than we have here is just part of the ultimate future plan that we always had and that is required. It's actually required in our plan for transportation for the state.
Right. And you make a good point, Kat, because a lot of times, like our small, very small little district, we can't get very good pricing because we're a little guy. If you can partner with the bigger guys and then you become even a bigger guy, you know, if we ride on with Grants Pass, now we're even a bigger customer. So now that vendor is even more enticed by keeping the business if they've got you know, a much bigger client. So we are in hopes that
And
this is
Goose
all
Bay
gonna work
isn't
out.
small cheese either. CCAT runs up and down the coast.
So we talked about partnering with, because I have a good relationship with Melissa Metz there as well. And we talked about originally piloting with her, but then Jennifer Boardman at ODOT said, what about Grants Pass? Because they're also on the I-5 corridor, and it would probably be a much easier transition. And so we have two options. We'll look at all of them, but
And so
those are.
that's all good, but as I've always said, it isn't about I-5 county. And
Right.
it isn't about Roseburg County, it's about 138 county and the intersection of all of them. We cannot do it by ourselves, we just don't have resources, and they do, their people reach out for things that we don't here, and it's just a really great benefit for us to be reaching out to other counties and other municipalities.
And we've done that also over the last few months. We've met with Myrtle Creek, Canyonville, Sutherland. We were supposed to meet with the Cow Creek tribe, but that meeting got canceled, so we'll be rescheduling that. And we also met with your the people that you recommended, Ashley, the Douglas County Senior Services. So we just met with them last week and provided them with a bunch of information. And you know, we've started the opening discussions to partner with our local municipalities, and see what we can build from there. So we have started doing all of that. There's also a Pacific Crest bus lines. They are, I'm not sure where they're out of, but they are going to be starting a service that's supposed to get from Medford all the way up to Eugene, I believe.
Wow.
And I believe they're a private company. They've been reaching out, and I know they've got a bus stop. I think they're talking about stopping at Seven Feathers, and then they want to have a stop here in Roseburg, and then they want to have a stop in Sutherland. So more to come on that. I think they might start those services maybe the mid to end of this month. So as soon as I have information on that, I will be sharing it to our southern community, because it might be helpful in the interim until we can figure out what we're gonna be able to do. And then in June, ODOT is starting some type of a study. And I know Grants Pass is kind of heading it up, because they would like for us, we've talked about this, where we have continuous service from Medford to Grants Pass to Roseburg to Eugene, and then, you know, Eugene on. So they're trying to get it to where we can all play a part in that. And
Glendale would really enjoy it.
yes.
Oh, yeah, they
So
would.
there may be some funding opportunities that will come with that. So that's supposed to start in June, and I know that
Okay.
we're gonna be working with Grants Pass and attending all those meetings and.
Because right now, if people want to go to Medford, they have to try to see if they can pick up the Greyhound here. And the Greyhound is not that reliable. They used to have the actual Greyhound bus depot right here. Now they have to pick them up or drop them off right here where where the old Safeway used to be, where it's just a big concrete place right now. That's where they usually.
I think they're called Flix Bus, Flix Bus.
Yeah, something like that, and
Yeah.
they're not that reliable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be great. Oh, my gosh.
Well,
Yeah, so
I think that Safeway is pretty close to our hub, isn't it?
it is.
That is our hub,
Uh-huh,
so it isn't like it's just out there nowhere.
Yeah.
but yeah, so those are things that are coming down the pipe as well, and I will keep everybody.
It's very exciting. I'm
Informed
really
on
excited.
where we are with all of that, so.
Big, big changes for us.
Just before I let the subject go, is that coming from contingency funds, or do we have dedicated funds to kind of have something to
For,
if next week, you know, your guys' conversations move forward, some sort of agreement to explore this, a partnership of some sort. Is there funding that that you have available to you know, to put our money where you know, our mouth?
Currently,
Deliver-
I mean, currently this quarter, not so much, but I'm hoping next quarter we should have a little bit of, funding that we can start doing that, and we did in our SIF plan, we do have a project for that. So, we already have money that has been allocated for that, as so long as we have the money to do it.
Okay, okay.
Unfortunately, our STIF funding has been about $158,000 shortfall for this fiscal year so far. So our funding is less this year than it was last year.
Okay, and then I guess just to kind of piggyback on that, if you're able to say anyway, do you have any kind of forecast on how this is going to work out with the transportation tax? I know that the House voted to move that to the May primary rather than November. Is that going to impact us at all?
To the good, I hope.
Do you
They
have
haven't
any
been listening to the people, so.
any type of forecast that you could see from your position on one way or the other?
No, I mean, I honestly don't. I don't know how that's gonna all pan out. I know that I think there's a misconception. I mean, the transportation part of the package that would affect us is the going from the 1% to the 2%. Now that's 1/10 of 1%. It's not, you know, so people think, oh, 2%. No, it's a 1/10 of 1% is what we get now. So it would be 1/10 of 2%. So it would be doubling it, but like the DMV fees and the gas taxes and all that, we don't see any of that in transportation. That's not going to help us at all. It's that 1% that's going to help us. So any education you can give to people out there to let them know that it's what it really is, what's really gonna help, would be, you know, appreciated.
So how much money are we talking?
So right now, we get about, well, we're getting about 1.9 million for this fiscal year on our STIF funding. So if you double that, we would get quite a bit more, which would be helpful. However, does have a sunset after 2 years. So that proposal that they're making is only supposed to go for 2 years and then it goes away. So my feeling is that it slightly sets us up for failure because we're gonna get all these extra funds. The people are gonna want to know, you know, are we going to give them back all their services? But we're gonna have to be very strategic and mindful that if that money goes away in 2 years, whatever we give to them, is it going to be sustainable then with the funding that we will go back to? And
Because if we turn around and we give them all these back services, everything, and then we have to take it away again, there's gonna be a blow up.
Exactly,
And we
that's
don't-
why I said it slightly sets us up for failure, because they're gonna say, well, we're paying all these, you know, we're paying extra taxes, and why aren't we getting all this stuff back? But that's how we got here to begin with, is we were providing services that were not sustainable with the funding that we have.
I guess the way I'd look at it is you've got 2 years to prove that money is being well spent.
Exactly.
That's kind
So to me, it would be more beneficial. Yes, we might be able to give a few things back. Like I said, it's never gonna look like it looked before. But I think it would be a good opportunity, like Ashley mentioned, to get software in place and get some things in place to make it easier for the rider when they are riding to see where their buses are in real time, to know whether it's running late or if they've missed it, without having to make a phone call to this office and ask.
And again, us not doing everything on our own.
Right,
Us partnering up with other people that
yeah.
have resources that we don't have because of where we live, because of our government.
Mhm.
So we will have to be very mindful if we do get that extra, percentage in the taxes. It will only be for a 2-year period.
You know, just, you said we need to be more or less involved. Is there a little cheat sheet you can give us that kind of shows what that's about? Is, you know, I could not very well talk to people and say, yeah, we want this to pass and here's why.
Right,
That's-
okay, yeah, I can see what I can come up
I
with.
mean,
I
just
can-
brief, but
Sure, sure,
Or if this passes, this is not what's gonna be happening, even though they're trying to tell us it will be happening.
We just have to see.
yeah, our
Yeah.
problem,
I promise saying.
the only example that I can give is that, we all have our own personal bank accounts and we know how much money we have to spend. So if you have $1,000 in the bank, or you're bringing in $1,000 and you buy a new car that has a $1,500 car payment, and you have, say $10,000 in your savings account, every month you're using what you bring in, plus you're taking 5 out of that savings. That's essentially what we've been doing all these years that got us where we're at. We spent more than what we were actually bringing
Taking
in.
from Peter to pay Paul and taking from
And
Paul to pay
At
Mary.
one point, we had a lot of money in the bank because COVID hit, we weren't providing services. And we did have a bunch of money that was in the bank and, then when COVID went away, we expanded all those services. We expanded, to run later in the evenings, we did Saturday service, we added the South County, we did all these expansions. And it ate up the money plus all the reserve that was in the
And
bank,
part of the reason that we did that was also because it was required.
right?
The state required
Yeah.
us to do certain things with
Yep.
the money that we had. And we did the best that we could.
Yeah.
To the maximum amount of people that we can service. So it isn't like we thought that was a great idea. But
Right.
the state and. you know,
Because they had 2 pots of money, they had the STF and then they had the STIF. And the STIF was supposed to go to expanding services and
Yes.
things like that. Which now we can use that money for, daily operations.
They got some sense back.
Yes. So you're right, Pat. The expansion was things that they were wanting us to do with that money.
There was the only thing we could do with the money.
Yes.
That you can only spend this to do that. You weren't allowed to do it on the things that you thought were sensible.
Yeah, because we did have pots of money that never really got touched because we didn't implement new services in that
Mhm.
area. There was a lot of other,
And those kind of
Projects
rules
that-
come from people making the rules that aren't doing the job. They're not down here doing the work, they're not down here knowing the population. And they're making big sweeping rules that really don't apply to us.
Yeah.
All we can do is the best that we can
And
with
just
what
like
we've got.
lording it over us. Yeah.
yeah. So now we can use the STIF funding for daily operations and things like that, but we could not for a
No,
while.
Totally wasn't
Um,
allowed.
But yeah, we essentially though, with all those expansion of services, we should have been doing cost analysis along the way. And figuring out if it was gonna be sustainable, or we should have maybe started it as a pilot. For a short-term period and see if, we were getting the ridership that we were hoping for, or. And there's all kinds of things that we should have been looking at. Then unfortunately, it fell along the wayside, but, here we are. Here we are.
Well, I
And,
certainly appreciate your insight and yours as well, Kat. It helps, kind of, forecast our future and, where we can better put the money to use for the riders and for the residents of our county. So
I think anything that we're able to do in this next fiscal year is going to be dependent on creating some of these partnerships with some of our other local transit agencies.
We need to be looking
Yeah.
at every chance to partner with somebody on
Yeah,
the
we need
other
to
end of
cooperate
our
with someone
road.
we can
Yeah.
trust the best.
Yeah. But the best way, I mean, you have to look at where you've been and see where you are now in order to have even a general idea of where you're headed towards. And be able to not just have a
Absolutely.
plan A and a B, but maybe have a plan C, D, E as well, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you from the beginning that we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything and the commissioners wouldn't give us the money to do anything. And it was just an uphill battle all the way. There wasn't anybody to trust.
And that's
Nobody
what, that's
to
what
partner
saddens
with.
me is the fact that the county commissioners, being that so much of this area is unincorporated or county,
Mhm.
you know, it's kind of like when they came in and they told the Republican Party, we want to be in charge of, we want to be your treasurer. You have elected chair in the Republican Party, elected vice chair, elected treasurer, and a secretary. They wanted, the county commissioners, the current ones, wanted to be the treasurer in charge of the Republican Party money. And when we said, no, we have a treasurer, Mikey's doing a good job, they go, oh, then we're done with you. So it's all about
They
the control.
have been a problem and we need to move forward.
We need to move
hopefully
forward.
with
We
your
don't
voting.
need the county
Yeah.
commissioners. We don't need the county commission. We, the people, they work for us
Well,
and we can govern ourselves.
They work for the timber industry and corporate.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I have one more
Okay.
thing for Sherry, before we move on to the public comment, but, knowing that we have a little bit of money there that's already set aside from the last year to move forward with the app, I think is really important and, mostly to increase that ridership. And if we can get more people signing up to ride the bus and paying for those fares, then, you know, we'll build that infrastructure and we'll build that, larger, wider, broader ridership. So,
Ashley,
we'll-
how do
we'll
we
see that.
advertise? How do we advertise more? Is there anyone out there who can give us some free publicity to try to let people out there know, hey, we're here and we want to serve the community and please come take a look?
Well, I think what Sherry's doing now, I think is really great, you know, having that social media presence. Amira also sending out those notices and, you know, including links to meetings and the information that they get there at the office. The sooner we get it, we can share it with our respected constituents and people in our neighborhoods. And I think word of mouth is definitely it, but taking advantage of any of the free advertising options that we may have available to us, you know, via social media. But I don't know if
Right.
you know, Sherry would be able to answer that if there's advertising, maybe for you know, radio ads or something like that.
We did some advertising with radio, and it's very expensive. That was one of the things that when we had our financial crisis, almost 2 years ago, 18 months ago. When RLS came in and did a financial review, they said, you gotta cut that out. It's too expensive for what, you know, you're not getting the return on that. So we have not done that again. We have been, I know Amira has been really trying to increase our social media presence on X and Facebook. She's been, we have another transit agency here in, Morrow County, and they have a guy there that's really good at putting together, advertisement stuff to try and educate the public on transportation. And he has been willing to share all of his information with all of us. So Amira has been taking it, he's even made it, taken their Morrow County logo off of it so that we can all use it if we want.
Oh my God.
So anything that you see on our social media right now,
You just
a
keep
lot of
throwing
it,
here.
a lot of it has come from Morrow County, and then Amira has also, you know, just been keeping an eye on things in the community that she can
Even though the News Review is no longer printing physical papers, except maybe on Sunday, I don't know, but they're mostly on the internet. You know, they closed down their entire printing here in Roseburg.
Yeah, I worked at the back.
You worked there at the time. So even though they've done that, they still have reporters that if you call them up and say, look, we have something we'd like to put out in the community, then that's free advertising right there.
They
And-
have been attending almost every board meeting.
Really? Okay,
They have been.
okay,
They
that's,
belong to Chris Boys.
what? Yeah, I know.
had a suggestion that maybe if we have another position on this committee, that maybe if folks know anybody involved with the school district, that maybe we could try to aim for somebody that serves in that capacity to serve with us in regards to the college and the middle schools. I know that teenager and high school ridership is definitely something that we could work on building and then
So
they
we do
share their
provide free
experiences.
rides to the kids, so we do provide free rides to the kids, 17 and under. So if you know anybody, that has to get a kid around Roseburg, that option is there, and that is something that we, with the cities like Sutherland and Canyonville, I think, we've kind of fallen short on, keeping them up to date on what we have to offer. I think we haven't done a very good job at communicating things in the past. So we are really trying to make sure that we communicate those things, look for those opportunities to promote, that we.
And what
provide
about the
free
ones that
rides
are
to
going to
them.
college and they,
They're covering the UCC still. They haven't.
And
canceled
we
those.
did do the bus wrap with UCC, so, UCC has one of our buses wrapped with all of their UCC stuff. And so we partnered with them, to promote UCC, and then it also lets them know that we have bus service that goes there,
Good.
so, we are looking for ways.
Okay.
Sure.
Mm-mm.
I just had one more thing, I think, under the financials. So ODOT, our fiscal year goes from July through June. The FTA's fiscal year goes from October through September. So I recently just did an application with ODOT. It was for what they're calling gap funding from July through September of 27. And basically ODOT, because they're gonna try and transition to the FTA's fiscal year. So we're gonna have a 1/4 of the gap in funding, but ODOT is going to be extending our current grant for that gap. So they're essentially going to be providing us 1/4's worth of
Oh, man.
federal funding until the next funding cycle. So
That's awesome.
hopefully we won't have that delay in that gap, because that plays a big part in our delayed funding as well with the FTA, is because they don't start theirs until October, we start ours in July, and so there's always this order that kind of gets hung out there and delayed. So hopefully that's going to take care of that.
Interest.
Yes. I think that's all we have, Ashley. That's all I have.
Well, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to the shelters on some of the bus stops that are in town, if there's been any progress made on that, or if there's any funding, or one way or the other, if there's dedicated funding still for those additional shelters or the tops for the bus stops.
We do have a bucket, the contingency bucket, that if we, have additional funding, that we can, use it for stuff like that. We have not, they run about $10,000 a piece. So we're just doing the best we can to maintain them at this point. Keep them clean and in good repair or decent repair. They're all pretty old. I think they've probably been there for 20 years. I don't know.
No,
they're-
it hasn't been 20 years.
Talking about the drivers?
I don't know. They seem very, very old, the bus stops. We've been here since 2019. 10, you think?
Yeah,
You think only 10?
yeah.
Okay.
It just seems like,
It seems like forever. I'm like,
Well, my biggest concern, as just to put it on the record, is the inclement weather. So as we're approaching the warmer season, folks, especially elderly and veterans that are coming from the VA campus, it's important if they're waiting for the bus that they're not in the direct sun. And then, you know, vice versa, that in the winter, it'd be nice to not be just downpour while you're waiting for the bus.
Yeah. So it's on our radar, Ashley. It's, I think, been on our wish list for a
Ever.
few years now.
That was the kind of money that we could only spend on bus stops. You know, and you had to do matching and it was 6 to 1 or whatever. It's always been almost impossible to, it's not like we got a bunch of spare pieces lying around in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah,
There was no money for it, and it was ridiculous that we don't have a roof over the place across from Walmart.
Yeah.
Any of these places are nuts.
I know, we just got a semi-seat put out there, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how we could get some kind of community involvement to help with that. Maybe the Boy Scouts,
Or, I mean, are there's,
It's also
Scouts of
the
America.
So we have talked about the job corps, maybe
Suicide.
unless
It's also
some help with the
Steve
job corps.
with UCC, I mean, I don't know what it takes to build one of those things, because they have to be pretty tough, I would say. But UCC has a welding program and the college,
Right.
the high school.
Well, and then we have to be very careful too, because if we can't use federal funding, otherwise we have to go through a NEPA process and all of that. So it would have to be with our state funding only, which has been,
Oh, I don't know how long we're gonna have NEPA. You know, it's scary out there right now.
Can we
Yeah.
do some sort of fundraising for it? Can we partnership with the school or maybe Wolf Creek
no.
Golf Corps or something like that? Maybe, you know,
Okay.
one of the veteran groups and do a matching fund, do a fundraiser or something.
Yes.
I would
Yes,
love to
sir.
say that we can, Ashley, but I would have to check with ODOT and see what kind of rules and regulations we're held by. Because we're a public entity, we've got, yeah, it changes things.
But
Yeah, I could just start an uptv.com website, the pirate
Go
site,
funny.
and
Go funny.
get people to donate, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can donate.
Oh, Sherry, on the subject, can you check with ODOT and find out if they can be sponsored? So perhaps UCC would sponsor one of the shelters, or maybe maybe Mercy Medical Hospital or the Cancer Research Center, you know, Ford Family Foundation. There's a number of people in our community I think would find value in putting their name on one of these shelters if that's within our right to do that. I appreciate you checking.
Yeah, I will check into that. I know that I have, well, I should probably go back on there. I know the Ford Family Foundation, they only do their grants, I think, twice a year. They open up grant opportunities, and I think it's coming up next, maybe this month. I think it's this month, so I'll have to go on their website and see if they have anything, but yeah, no, I agree with that. Maybe we can, you know, get someone to sponsor something. Would be nice. I think that's how we got the one over by the DHS, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
I believe so.
So, yeah. And just so that the STAC committee is aware, when the district was stood up, eventually, when we became a special district and started that, we are not a taxing district. So Douglas County would not allow for our district to be a taxing district. So
they would not allow our what?
we are not a taxing district. We don't get any
We
other
were not formed as a taxing
taxing district. So the only taxes that we get are through the state. We don't get any of
And
those.
those taxes that come from the state come from the W-2 of every person that gets a W-2.
In the state.
So you're saying that the county, okay, I'm not talking about the city of Rosebud, I'm talking about the county that gets property taxes from people out, you know, past, yeah, like Dixonville and Glide and all that. They get this county money from people's property tax, but none of it is given by the three
No, it
county
goes-
commissioners.
It goes to public safety. It used to go 100% to the sheriff's department, but about 5 years ago, they started shaving off part of it for the general fund.
for the general fund.
Yes, for
And
their,
who's maintaining the general fund?
oh, that would be those lovely,
Those three
Companies.
county commissioners?
the
So
the trio of twins, they are
Okay,
effectively.
so the three county commissioners are the only ones that really know where the money in the general fund goes, and they don't take any of that general fund and say, look at, because every year when when they're talking about veterans, we're talking about military veterans, disabled veterans. Let me finish. We have, yeah, the proclamations. So we have veterans, we have senior citizen veterans, we have senior citizen veterans who are severely disabled, and we happen to be blessed with the Roseburg VA right here. But our county commissioners can't take any money from that general fund and say, look at, we can help here build some of those little structures so they're out of the weather.
They could.
They
Yeah,
could do, but
but they don't.
but
That's
they'll just
why I
stand there and
say
give a
do, but
proclamation, we're proclaiming
Yes.
this is Veteran Women's Day. Okay.
I'm so glad that we all are on the same page there.
I don't
just wanted
understand,
to-
but I don't understand, we're serving the community here and Roseburg is part of the county of Douglas County. Why can't our county commissioners, when they're
Right,
taking,
that
they're
was-
giving a little bit of money to the VFW, they're giving a little bit of money to the Purple Hearts, they're putting proclamations every few months for women, veterans and others on the steps of the courthouse. Why can't they give a little bit to this district here to say, and we really care about your disabled veterans that are in wheelchairs or whatever?
They don't,
Well, and we don't control them, but
Yeah.
you do with your vote.
yeah.
And term limits,
If we have honest elections.
You just need to.
well, you should work with me.
So I just wanted to make sure you all were aware of that, because there's also a misconception that, you know, we.
That you're
get
getting
taxed-
money from
that we
property
get- yes,
taxes.
and
No,
we don't.
And you're not getting
Property
any
It's
money
nothing
from,
from Douglas County, period. The
Property
only thing that
taxes
we
have
get
always
is,
gone to
like
the
Kat
sheriff.
said, it's the payroll taxes from every person in the state. Goes to the state first, and then the state decides how it gets filtered back out.
And
to
it does come
the
back
rest of
out
us.
kind of proportion to your population.
Right.
That was the original intent, so there's like two different funding
There's a
things.
payroll base and there's a
so
population.
I
base.
apologize, for the last 6 or 7 years, I thought that our county commissioners were taking a little bit out of that general fund and giving it to the UPTD because of the fact that it's serving all the senior citizens. Many people retired right here. So you'd think they would want to be servicing the senior
No.
citizens and the disabled veterans.
Population is poorly educated.
And don't we have in Roseburg, just Roseburg proper, roughly 23 to 25,000 people? Whoa,
I'm waiting
Okay.
For the non-agenda.
I've just been educated tonight, a little bit
I just
more.
want to share that because that is.
Happy to have a beer with you anytime.
I don't normally drink, but I did when I went to Germany and I'll have a beer with you.
I don't think I wanna be around with you two.
Oh, well, get Ashley
That's-
with us in the
good.
bus. Ashley and her and I would make an awesome team.
It is good
Right, Ashley?
information.
So.
Sherry, is there
we
anybody,
are on-
is there anybody there from the public that came to speak?
Is there anybody here that wants to provide public comment?
I think we just did it.
I
Yes.
I think we just had.
Well, I mean, anybody besides the board anyway, in the.
No, there's
Oh, I
not.
mean, an outsider, no. And we just won't tell anybody about this date.
Oh, okay, and then did we have a date set for the next meeting?
Didn't hit non-agenda items yet.
Oh.
Oh,
Anybody
okay.
have
are we
anything
gonna
on- not
I've,
agenda?
I've got a comment on I've been waiting for non-agenda items. How does this,
Shoot.
how does this firm set with the Office of Emergency Services? What is our role? Are we an asset?
Hmm.
If so, is there an opportunity to perhaps take advantage of or apply for additional funding as an emergency service when they, as an asset to them? How do we stand with or how are we attached to their plan?
I don't know that we are attached to their plan. I know my operations manager has been working on a. Like emergency type plan, but I know he's been working on it for the last couple months. I don't know where exactly he is with it.
Okay, is there opportunity for additional funding, perhaps, under
I don't
that
know.
umbrella?
That's a good question, and it's something that I can definitely look into and find out. If
But-
we
Somehow
somehow
the fires, we did some adjunct but it wasn't like anything that we were paid for.
It wasn't very much then, Kat, is what you're saying.
No.
Because I do know a few years ago, I got a phone call from a friend of mine in North Bend. And she and her husband, he's a veteran, and they were brought in because that's the Cascadia and all that. But we also have, we could have things happen here too. And they actually had training that they put out to the civilians. Their county commissioners there were right on top of it and said, let's have this thing where we can work with FEMA, we can work with this. And they had people come in and take classes over like a 3 or 4 month period of time. Sort of how we have our master gardener, where for 3 months they have every Tuesday for 8 hours each Tuesday. They have that, they have that class. Well, they had the same thing in North Bend where the county commissioner said, let's have people get together once a week for 8 hours or whatever and prepare. So everybody knows if something happens, that people all along there, why can't our county here have something like what JC just brought up?
Does have a disaster plan and they work it out with the city too.
But they're not educating the people,
No,
Kat.
they
That's what
don't,
I'm
because
saying.
They like ignorant people.
Yeah, and so like I say, my husband and I are both licensed nurses. There's people out here in the community that are medical and have all kinds of skills. We should be read in on this, so when something
There is a
happens.
thing that we are supposed to be able to do because the people will not have roads to get here from the coast. And
Exactly.
we will have stragglers coming in through the mountains broken and maybe not fixable, and we might need to be outreach. Highway 42 is gonna cave in just like it did before, and Highway 138 is no better. And so the people on the coast are not gonna be able to get here. The air rescues aren't gonna be able to land anywhere. Yes, we should be prepared and the commissioners should be educating more.
And I think we are a part of a plan, but I'm not sure. I have not had an opportunity to look at the full scope of it and to see like,
Mhm.
what is our part in that?
We might
What are we supposed to?
Yeah, county
Who's
level
supposed to
and or
contact us,
state
or
level.
who,
There should be,
what is our?
And JC's bringing up a good point because I happen to know a few years ago, the county commissioners, at one time, one of them was Joe Lawrence, had a little ID card. That with that little ID card, if there was an emergency, he could just flash it like he was a federal police officer or someone and go anywhere he wanted to go. So I think departments like at least one person from UPTD and one person from this department and one, they all should have those little cards too. So therefore they can also get through the areas that your average citizen would not be allowed to go through. Because you need to be read into that. Someone should be read into that, and you would probably be the person that should be carrying that card.
Yeah,
I think
it
you
is
have
something
enough
that we are working on, but but thank you, because,
With the fires, they've asked that we have all of our buses filled,
yep,
to the top in case evacuations were needed, that we would be readily available.
yeah.
So,
So like I said, I think that we are a part of a plan, I'm just not sure.
Ashley,
What
don't you
exactly
know
that
more
is.
about the master plan for the disaster?
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I think that what JC brings up is a really good point. It's an important time to bring that up too. I think there's a group called CERT, and they're working through some of the wildlife mitigation plan in regards to emergency response. Definitely in the rural parts of the county. I think that if time allows, maybe at our next meeting or whenever is appropriate, if we could invite maybe if Sherry, if you could reach out and invite somebody from that program or.
Ashley, and something else, one of the things we've been studying, being that my husband and I have had 30 years apiece in the military and search and rescue and evacuation and medical and all that training, is if we could find somewhere, and I know the county commissioners didn't support me this 3 years ago when I brought it up, is if we could find some way, and I do not believe Red Cross is where it's at. It needs to be the American Heart Association. They are the best as far as CPR instruction. I used to be a CPR instructor with the American Heart Association. They're far better than the Red Cross. If we could find some way to have a program, because the average person who wants to be CPR certified, now let's say you have one of your bus drivers in the
we were
UPDD.
just talking about.
Yeah, so you have one of your bus drivers that may not have that 2-year certification card. Now, what I did when I taught the class is it would be like an all-day class, okay, for like 8 hours. And if they were able to do everything correct, including not doing the bouncy Betty, but actually doing the proper hand placement, and they could pass the written test, they would then get their card for 2 years. We would bring them back after 2 years, and they'd only have to have a 4-hour class of like a refresher, okay? And what we were hoping at the time where I was living then, that every bus driver had to have that CPR card. We would also try to get as many people in the community CPR certified as possible. We just had someone pass away not very long ago because a family member didn't know how to do CPR. And if we could try to encourage kids in high school and middle school learn how to do CPR, instead of charging them $35 to $45 a person, which discourages people in our community from even taking a CPR class, if we could make it more affordable in some way, where, more people in the community, that would also help if there was an emergency.
Well, Donna, so I think that you should be working on a mutual aid movement here. Because mutual aid is where we need to be working and we don't have it.
And see if we
You
can
would be
extract some
perfect.
dollars from it.
To put that together.
Well, the only reason I brought it up is because when I'd worked at Letterman Army Hospital in Presidio, San Francisco, our nursing education department that I was the assistant NCOIC of, that we would actually go out to the community and say, we will give classes for $10 a person. If you can't afford $35, $45, $50 for a whole 8-hour class, including the book, then we will have people donate books for you to use while you're in the classroom, and then we will only charge you $10. And that basically paid $5 for the card and $5 for them taking the class. They didn't have to come up with $35, $45, or $50. More people then came in the civilian community that were willing to say, as a community, we all want to be prepared in case there's an emergency.
So you have this experience, do it,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay, but we got shot down by the county commissioners every time we brought it up. That was the problem.
Question them, I
Okay.
haven't questioned them.
I'm also hearing if we have a Cascadia event, do you know the water, they're saying the water will come right up to this side, where the Highway 5 is?
Well, they say everything will be toast.
Well, no, they're saying that water will come all the way in and almost right up to
It's gonna
Sutherland.
back up the rivers. It's
Yeah,
gonna
it'll
back
come
up
all the
the
rivers through, so we need to have
But
an
the
emergency
roads will
plan.
be toast.
Definitely
Is
an
I
emergency.
can
basically
get
what they need.
information so that I have it.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, because I know there isn't really a real good emergency plan in place right now. We've
But-
asked
and
about it.
These guys are too poor. They're too poor to apportion any money to do any of that. We have to do it ourselves if we want it done.
I'm sure there's a county emergency plan.
Yeah, but don't you
Yeah.
think many of us in different committees should be aware of what that is?
Yeah, but.
It should not be a secret.
That's a
Oh,
fact.
I'm not agreeing with you on that, but I think there is something.
Yeah,
The budget
remember-
should
There
be
is,
unreadable.
there is.
And the
I will
software should
figure out where it
be
is.
accessible.
So do we have a consensus among our group here that for Sherry to reach out to the emergency response, the CERT group, and see if maybe we can get some information from them in regards to how do we fit in with their plan?
Yes. I will do that. I will have that for us at the next meeting.
Before Oath Keepers went belly up, they actually had a really good plan in place here. We don't have Oath Keepers anymore.
I went to a couple of the last meetings.
Yeah.
I know when they broke it.
Yeah.
Do you guys wanna set up the next date and time, or would you guys like for Amir to send out a poll for a couple different dates?
Yeah, a
Does that
poll.
work out better?
Yeah.
What this is.
Okay.
Perfect. I will get that out, sent out tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, that's really cool that you're gonna be able to work on that emergency response sort of thing, because I think that's like a priority, especially with we're hearing more about the Cascadia and what's going on right now. It's getting a little bit nerve wracking because they say it's getting worse out there, like 3 miles off coast.
Just need good tires.
All right, so the next, Ashley, wanna call the meeting to adjournment if nobody has anything else?
Going 3, 2. Anybody else have anything else? We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
At 6:23 p.m. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you,
Good job,
Chairman Hicks.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
so much.
Chairman Hicks.
Have a good evening.
Next one is when?
Bye, Doris.
Oh, she'll send that.
Bye. See you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Bye, Lucas.